right, welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty, and I am your host, Sludge, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. You know how we do it for you, and let's party. Big shout out to the replay gang. Thank you so much for coming back to watch this, even though you missed the live party, guys. That is the best part. So make sure you are here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. So hit that subscribe, ring the bell, and you will never miss an Indian Jesus live party ever again. If you would like to support the channel, head on over to theindianjesus.com for your very own official The Indian Jesus merch. All good stuff at theindianjesus.com. All right. Let's party, guys. Let's party. I am excited for this one. I am excited. Shout out to Zippy coming in early. So we've been doing some, I've been trying some different stuff lately, and some of it's worked and some of it hasn't, and, always growing and changing, but we are getting back to our roots today and talking or covering one conversation. So I'm sure that most of you are familiar with Gina Carano. If you're not, she was an early MMA fighter. She was like the first female MMA fighter before Ronda Rousey. And then, she retired and eventually went into acting. And she was, I don't remember if she was the star or if she was like a supporting role on The Mandalorian. And then during the lockdowns, when the world was going crazy, she put out an Instagram post that was talking about in Nazi Germany, it wasn't all the Nazis that were doing all the bad stuff. It started with neighbors snitching on neighbors, and from that, her career was Thanos snapped out of existence. Luckily, Ben Shapiro from the Daily Wire said, "Oh, hell no, we ain't doing that." They were just starting to put out movies on their own platform, and she was picked up to star in their Western-ish movie with Cowboy Cerrone, Terror on the Prairie. Awesome movie. If you guys have not seen it, you definitely should check it out. Shout out to Unwanted Foe in the building. Hell yeah. All right. As always, guys, if you can't hear the video, please do let me know.
Life is long and weird, and the longer it is, the weirder it gets. You may have noticed that. But even by that unchanging standard, Gina Carano has had a pretty remarkable life packed into a relatively short amount of time. So in 2006, she began as a professional mixed martial arts fighter. Within a few years, she was starring in big Hollywood films like Fast and Furious. Then in 2019, not that long ago, she got one of the biggest roles of her career. She was on a Disney show called The Mandalorian. In case you didn't see it, here she is.
Stay back, dropper. Easy.
Drop your weapon.
You're gonna wish you never left Alderaan. I saw your planet destroyed. I was on the Death Star.
Which one?
You think you're funny? Do you know how many millions were killed on those bases?
Drop your blaster.
As the galaxy cheered,
Last chance.
destroying your planet was a small price to pay to rid the galaxy of terrorism.
So back in 2019, when you worked at Disney,
It's actually funny because the Mandalorian is the only Star Wars property that I've ever seen. I've never seen any of it. And quick reminder, if you want to watch this without my commentary and you don't know how YouTube works, the link to that without my commentary is in the description below. I could recognize Bill Burr's voice like that. And yeah, so I mean, even though, personally, it wasn't a big deal, to be part of the Star Wars franchise is enormous. And I forgot that she was also in the Fast and Furious movies. So her career was going great. And then it wasn't. Wanted Foe said Cara Dune was such a badass character. Disney was out of its mind to get rid of her. And that was the character that Gina was playing. Zippy said, Twitter seems to have your search blocked. Posted a link. Oh, come on, Twitter. Well, thank you. We'll work with it.
Disney Corporation, you could expect a long and pretty stable career. It's a huge company, lots of things you could keep doing there at a pretty good salary. And the only cost would be you have to follow the rules. Disney at the time was getting increasingly political, and the people who worked there were expected to go along with this. So don't say anything and you'll be absolutely fine. But for some reason, she could not follow that rule. And so she went on Twitter and pushed back on some of the things that Disney was pushing. She questioned the motives of Black Lives Matter. If it's so great, why isn't it helping Black people? She asked about the 2020 election. Was it really fair? And then she suggested that maybe vax mandates were not a good idea. So what do you think?
Can't do that. You can't do that.
What happened next to Gina Carano? It's an even more interesting story than the first part of her life. And so we're honored to have her join us on set now. Gina, thanks so much.
Thank you, Tucker. It's so good to see you.
It's great to see you. So last we spoke, and I don't know, because both of our lives have taken lots of turns since then.
Yes.
I can't remember how long it's been.
She was at Disney. He was at Fox. And now they are loan sharks.
But you were just kind of emerging from the chaos of getting fired for things that in a normal country would not cause you to be fired.
Mhm.
Like refusing to put, in a pretty funny way, your pronouns in your email, and they fired you. So what happened now? Like, what are the twists that your life has taken since? Because I think it tells us a lot.
So as you guys know, usually I like to have a frame of reference or a lens through which we should be viewing this. And so as both Tucker and Gina being people who somewhat recently have had their lives kind of turned upside down because their jobs that they were depending on, were the rug was pulled out from under them. And so as she, there's lots of other stuff here. They're also going to be talking about the lawsuit, thanks to Elon Musk. But as they're talking about specifically being canceled and that experience, I want you to look at the difference between how Gina handled being canceled versus Tucker. And I mean, granted, Gina's cancellation was bigger, but Tucker's starting position was bigger as well. So take a look.
Well, we went to the Daily Wire after the cancellation.
Daily Wire in Nashville.
Yes. And
why'd you go there? What was your
do you know another Daily Wire
expectation?
Because Ben Shapiro had given me the opportunity to, kind of try to uncancel me and
Yes.
say, hey, we'll do a movie with you. Come on out and let's just do a movie and try to get, you uncanceled.
Yes.
And so I went out to Nashville thinking that we were going to shoot a movie there. We didn't shoot it there. We ended up shooting up in Montana, Prairie, Montana.
What a great town that is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love Montana.
Yeah.
And so we shot this $2 million Western movie during the time where SAG-AFTRA was starting to mandate the vaccines.
$2 million is not a lot of money. And so apparently nobody has seen the, I'm going to leave that up for a little bit, but let's see if we can get a trailer just so you guys know what we're talking about. Turn on just the trailer. And shout out to Cowboy Cerrone. It's crazy that UFC 300 was just this weekend, and I remember a quick aside. So replay gang, if you don't care about UFC, you can just fast forward. But I remember, I got into the sport because of Conor McGregor, and I remember, I think 197, UFC 197 was the first event that I actually purposely sat down to watch. I remember the first thing, the first fight that I saw actually had Cowboy Cerrone in it. It was the Jose Aldo fight with Conor, but I don't remember exactly. But so right before UFC 200, we just had UFC 300, which again, this is big deal in terms of the UFC. And because they'd been raising their prices all the way along, and they went to ESPN Plus, where you had to have the subscription and pay for the pay-per-view and everything. It got so expensive to the point where you had to pay $50 a year for ESPN Plus. That's the yearly price. You're paying even more if you do it by monthly, and you had to spend $80 every single month for the pay-per-view. And I just couldn't do it. I was like, I can't justify spending this money when I'm trying to build all of this. And it's crazy how quickly I just didn't even care. I didn't know who was fighting. I didn't know the stories. It's weird. And it sucks because I love being a UFC fan. I love enjoying the fights, but I don't understand why they needed to raise the prices so much. But anyway, shout out to M169 in the building. Welcome to the party. Yeah, so that's for Hollywood. I mean, $2 million ain't gonna get you the permits to start the movie. So luckily, out in Nashville with the Daily Wire, they could do stuff a little bit cheaper. Welcome to the party. So if you did not see Terror on the Prairie, I definitely suggest you go see it. But this is the trailer. So even though it's the Daily Wire, even though it's conservative, whatever, it's still a female-led story. It's still a girl kicks everybody's ass. I mean, she's not a Mary Sue. There's definitely character development there, but it just somebody I just saw a tweet that was saying something along the lines of, oh well, I guess get woke go broke doesn't work because everybody loves X-Men. I was like, hold on, wait a minute. What are we talking about? X-Men has always been a very progressive message about racism and bigotry and stuff. That's why it works, because that's what the story is. What we've been saying all along is stop taking stories that have nothing to do with that stuff and forcing wokeness into it. The reason that X-Men works and also can be woke is because it was always meant to be that way. And so just like we saw with Terror on the Prairie here, if the story is meant to be about a strong woman, you can do that without having to shove in everybody's faces why she's a strong woman. You can just show that movie. And M169 said, you just outlined why I don't have multiple streaming services. It's just not worth it. Yeah, I've had Netflix for the last at least long time, and with all the BS, I just was not able to cancel it because I just felt like that was my home base where everything I watched was. And I don't even remember what it was. Just recently I've just been watching stuff, and I've been struggling to find anything that I really enjoy, and I've been watching stuff that I'm like, oh, okay, this is good, but only because Netflix allows you to like YouTube does, to speed everything up. And I'm realizing everything that I'm finding any enjoyment out of on Netflix is me speeding it up. So it's cool that I can, watch more stuff because it's faster, but that means that I'm not really enjoying it. And it wasn't until I actually canceled it that I'm like, oh wow, I'm totally cool with this. I think tonight's the last night I'll be able to watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine as my sleepy time sitcom. But after that, it's just, I had even planned to do, okay, like maybe I'll do a couple months of Peacock, and then I'll do a couple months of Hulu, and a couple months of Apple or whatever. But I'm just like, you know what? I don't really need to. Between YouTube and between the seas, if you know what I mean, then I just don't think that it's necessary. Welcome to the party. We also got Indie Film. Welcome. Yeah, also the only woman in the territory. Yep. Welcome. Yeah, very, very well done. Obviously, it is a $2 million film, so there's not any crazy action. But again, it's a small Western story in the sense that, these guys are coming to, I don't want to spoil anything, but, you pretty much saw what was going on. She's got to protect the homeland, and it's all about that. And Cowboy Cerrone is the dad, and he's, playing his role, but he just happens not to be there and all that stuff. And it really works. It really works. Exactly. Yeah. So whenever we get these remakes that have wokeness or race swapped or this, that, and the other, what do we always say? Just make your own stories. It's not that we hate, having black people on screen or again, I'm not white. I don't know if y'all notice. It's not that you can't have anybody gay in a thing. I just watched Baby Reindeer. I'm glad I got to see this before Netflix, my subscription ended. Baby Reindeer on Netflix. Amazing show. And the dude, has struggles with his sexuality, and there's a trans girl and all this stuff. There's some homosexual SA in there. But because that is the story, it works. They're not trying to shoehorn it into a different story with a different message. I don't know. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. They don't understand. It's not about that. You think people are just that bigoted? It's just that stop ruining the stories that we love. Just make your own stories. That's it. That's it. All right, let's dive back in. Yeah.
Taught this $2 million Western
Hey, shout out to Tyler the Goat. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
movie during like, you know, the time where SAG-AFTRA was starting to mandate the vaccines and COVID tests and masks. And, you know, I just said to the Daily Wire gave me the option, you know, we can either do a union movie or we can do a non-union movie.
What would be the difference?
The difference would be
Money.
Well, the difference would be we would have to basically hire more vaccinated people on the union movie just in case they did mandate it, which they ended up mandating it, which is obviously everything I was standing against. And so that wasn't an option for me.
And so I don't know if I skipped past it, or she might be about to say this, but in case I skipped over it, she said if they were going to do it by union rules, they would have gotten $4 million to do the movie. But because of all this, she is like, nah, we'll take half the money and ain't no COVID restrictions. Hell nah.
But it was an option for the Daily Wire.
It was one of their options.
Yes.
Yeah. And so
So the Daily Wire was willing to say, yeah, we'll do all of this with the COVID restrictions if we get a little bit more money.
So then their second option was, well, for half the money. So we went from $4 million, you know, exciting serial killer movie to a $2 million non-union movie where that would have given, you know, so many more people that were struggling at the time for not taking the vax, for not wanting to apply by the COVID restrictions. And so the Daily Wire did put that on my, you know, my shoulders and said, you know, this is your decision. This is your movie. And I chose to go up and shoot the $2 million Western.
There you go. There you go. It's one person that can make the difference. How many people got to feed their families while the world was telling them that they're horrible people and they don't even deserve to work? They got to work on this film. They got to do something in their industry. And life was just a little less shitty. Because Gina Carano said, fuck the mandates. Fuck the mandates. We are doing this according to my principles.
But it just, when I got there, it was just two different options that I thought I didn't think that was what I was showing up to. But they did, you know, they were like, okay, then let's go up and let's make this Western for $2 million.
That's I wonder if there was some aspect of let's put this on Gina's shoulders so that if she chooses the union stuff and then we get, you know, some bullshit with the mandates, then we could say, well, Gina wanted to do it this way. Because I don't know. It just seems like at that time, why wouldn't that have even been an option for the Daily Wire? Mr. Nine said, hell, I wish I could order a Blu-ray of the film. I prefer to have physical copies. Yeah, so what you know, something you could do. This is for anyway. So StreamYard has a free option. And a lot of screen share, like in Discord, sometimes you can't screen share Netflix or Amazon or something. It'll just block it out. But what you could do is, so like if I wanted something on a physical copy, let's just say this. So I turn off, you know, all my stuff here. I get rid of that. And then I just, you know, record this.
It made it definitely a lot more difficult.
Like that. And then I have my own file, at least. And then you can put it on a disk or a hard drive or something. So there's a way around it. But takes a little bit of finagling, if you know what I mean.
This Western for $2 million. It made it definitely a lot more difficult. It's kind of funny online and on IMDb, they say we shot it for $75 million and they're trying to like write up all these reports that it went into theater and it only made $800. And I'm like, no, it actually was just streamed on the Daily Wire. We made it for about $2 million that I know of, you know, and it could have been less than that. and we it was never in theater. And you've got like all of the Hollywood, press, like, look at, and it's even not, I believe it's still on IMDb listed as $75 million just to kind of like do these awful things to people like
Of course.
me and
Yeah.
the Daily Wire, and like
Just any little thing to make you look bad. Shout out to Virgil Kane. Welcome to the party. Good to see ya. Good to see ya. I mean, yeah, torrents are obviously, but number one, I don't know how easy it is to find new torrents anymore. I've been looking for old stuff, like it's not easy to find a good stuff and new stuff, especially if you're not familiar with how to search and what to look for and who has this, that, whatever. And yeah, I never had Blu-ray. I assume I was working at Best Buy when there was the HD DVD and Blu-ray at the same time, and I assumed that HD DVD would be the one that won out, because you look at VHS and Betamax, and it just seemed like the more universal one would be the one that kicked off. Now, I don't really know the differences between what HD DVD and Blu-ray did. I would imagine that Blu-rays had some type of capability, because it just didn't make sense to me that you would switch. But yeah, very, very weird. And now that whole thing is just come and gone. So yeah, I'm definitely having like a physical hard copy is cool. But the fact that you can have these files and just like I have I think it's like a 5 terabyte hard drive. I'm just gonna fill, you know what I mean? And I just figured out how to do, because I use my Chromebook connected to my TV. I don't have like an extra laptop or a Fire Stick or whatever, and it uses the Android OS. And so I had VLC on my Chromebook, but it was different. On a PC, you just left click a file, add to playlist. So my sleepy time sitcom, I need them to run so I can pass out. If I have to try to open a new file every time, I'm gonna be kept awake. But I figured it out, so we are good. And look who we got here. Melted Mind Media in the building. Good to see you, brother. Welcome to the party. Always good to see you, brother.
do these awful things to people like
Of course.
me and
Yeah.
the Daily Wire, and like people like you. It's like, let's just put as much false information
Of
that leads
course.
people astray. But it ended up being a really good film, Terror on the Prairie. I think there could have been, adjustments made that made it better, but I love the performances in it. I love the people that made it. Dallas Saunier is a wonderful producer. I loved working with him. And so I had a really good time.
So what'd you do after that?
I disappeared. I think,
So again, remember, we're thinking about the difference of how do you handle being canceled?
I knew that after getting canceled and fired, I knew that like even during that Daily Wire kind of Terror on the Prairie stint, I was wounded like a broken animal. And I'm not sure if you experienced the same thing after what happened with you and Fox, but I think everybody handles it maybe differently. Like
Yes.
to me, it looks like you jumped straight back in and you were like, hustling. I have maybe a different energy where it's like, I got wounded, I got stabbed.
Yes.
I'm
very shallow, so it's easy to recover.
No, stop.
And so right there, I mean that's kind of hitting the nail on the head a little bit, and seeing that somebody who, even as an MMA fighter, grew up in, or at least spent a lot of time in the the liberal Hollywood bubble. I don't know for a fact this is what what it is, but that versus somebody who has a more conservative mindset of, okay, well, the world is what it is. He's a little bit older. He's a man. All that kind of stuff. It just speaks to, well, does this have to do with how well you're able to take the shots, get knocked down, and get back up again?
I think you're just, like a certain type of brain that, you go forward, right?
Yeah, have to.
And mine was, I've not been like that. Like when I've been wounded in relationships or in life, like, I get hurt. I'm sensitive. So for 2 years, I've been, in this, kind of desert, kind of, like wondering, like, oh God, I see justice happening and I see people moving forward, and I'm not moving forward like I thought I was going to, and like I had, said I was going to try to.
Yeah. And so it's not even just the fact that I don't have this job anymore. It's the fact that you have a plan for your life. And even in an industry like being an actor, you know that it's not, a stable job. But still, if you have a perception that this is what I do, this is who I am. When I get up in the morning, I know that this, that, and that's taken care of. I just need to check my emails. Is there a new, I don't know how the fuck it works with being an actor, but you know what I mean? As a dog trainer, I know that when I wake up, I gotta, see, are there any emails from new clients or the office or anything? Check the clients that I have for the day. Make sure I got, the driving route and all that. So, like, I know that I have to do that. To realize that as much as I wouldn't hate not having to do that job anymore, not because of the dog, for everything else to do with it, it would be if I was fired before I got to a place with this channel where I could support myself and I would have to get another job, that would be in and of itself a big stressor, because that's another thing to do. And so when you're in the public eye, and it's not just like, okay, well, now I got to go back to, to LinkedIn or Indeed and find whatever job, or I got to go back to a rest. No, now it's not just that you've lost the job, but you've been blackballed from the entire industry. Then you add on the people that are your friends that like, oh, well, I can't talk to you anymore because this, that, and the other. All of that stuff. So you said found the film in 1080. There you go. Shout out to Melty with his new job. Dilly to that. Dilly. Amongst the Nine said, my take is she felt betrayed. That's not the easiest thing to bounce back from, especially having the public against you. Exactly. 100% agree.
And I felt very just forgotten. And then
so when you were fired from Disney for reasons that no person should ever be fired, resisting a vax mandate or not putting your totally insane pronouns in an email, did you consider suing them then?
Yes. Yeah. I actually confronted my family lawyer and we talked about it. And I was like, if this isn't defamation or if this isn't discrimination, then I don't know what is. If this isn't wrongful doing of an employee,
yes,
then I don't know what is.
So it's my
and I mean, let me see if I can find the actual Gina Carano post. I got her fired. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. So it was in, oh, come on. It was on the other side. I'd be perfect. Yeah, so it was an Instagram story. And it said, come on. Boom. It says, Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. Sad face. Quote, because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? Bingo! It's not. She didn't say anybody was a Nazi. She didn't say anything negative about Jews. She just stated a fact. Gone.
My fault for not telling your story more completely for those who don't know it. It's not simply that they fired you.
Right.
It's that they defamed you.
And harassed and discriminated and just put me through the struggle session, which I didn't know. When you're going through it, you don't know that, you're like, I was so naive at 2020. I haven't been living in the political realm at all.
Well, that's the other thing too, is that especially if there's people who don't pay attention because they're just doing whatever. But there's people who are not paying attention that we talk about all the time because they are actually, doing life. They're living their life. They're working. They're taking care of their family. They're involved in other things. And for a lot of people, the lockdowns were a wake up call.
At all.
Yes.
I just pay my taxes and, hustle for that next job, that next action job or that next drama job. And, that's just what I've been trying to do for my entire life, besides my fighting career.
Yeah.
And so then it was just like when 2020 hit, it's like the shades got opened and I started actually like looking around thinking, wait a second, what's happening here? Like,
And again, a lot of people, and even some of us, myself included, who were already starting to pay attention. It took some drastic stuff like that to really be able to see how drastic everything was. Because remember, I didn't vote for Trump in 2020. I still wasn't ready yet. But it was 2020 that flipped that switch for me.
Why are people allowed to riot on the streets and they're not allowed to go to church? And why are big businesses staying open and small businesses are getting shut down? And
that don't make no sense.
It was just it bothered me. It's like people forcing masks on each other, and I intrinsically knew lockdowns are going to be devastating to people.
So did they. They just didn't care.
This is, coming from a person who has, been on and off work. I know what it's like to not work for a year and then to work for 3 years and not to work. And when you take away that consistency, it does such an emotional, mental, spiritual thing on you that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. Exactly what I'm talking about. That it's not just you don't work here anymore. It's everything that comes with that. Guys, if you could do me a huge, huge favor and hit that like button, it is free. It's so easy and it helps out the channel so very much. Thank you.
That, some people don't know how to handle, they start drugs, alcohol, addiction, and that's exactly what we've seen. We've seen all of this addiction and all this problem. I
gotta tell you guys, I am so glad that my experience with drugs came before 2020, because if I had the time and just money, the government sending me money, I would not have a nice crypto portfolio right now. I would maybe be dead, and if not, all of that money would have gone to drugs. I can't imagine being me, who I was in 2010, 2012, in 2020. I don't know if I would have made it.
Deaths, and I've lost 2 friends to overdoses. One to turbo cancer. I've lost so many people in the last 6 years or the last 4 years that it's just like mind blowing, which is just a whole another subject. But it does make me feel like I stood up for the right thing. I'm not sorry I did. It hasn't made things easy, but yeah, I was so I did try to go and talk to.
There you go, doing the right thing. That's all we can ask for, right? That's all we can ask for. Shout out to Zippy DSM Lee over on Rumble with the Rumble chat. And look, we got courtesy of Papa Lutch. We got some new soy-free. Where is it? Where are we? Well, soy-free. Gotta get rid of that soy. And of course, every donation comes with a treat for Morty. Yummy. Thank you. And of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Thank you, sir. Very, very, very much appreciated.
To a lawyer.
And what was...
It hasn't made things easy, but yeah, I was... so I did try to go and talk to a lawyer.
And what was the lawyer's response, and what was your thinking about it at the time?
Like I had to get out of LA because my life was not safe there, at least where I was at. And, it's pretty expensive to live in LA. And
can you get TRT for dogs? He's an old man, bro. He can be 15 in a couple months.
And so it's either like moving to keep in LA or...
Oh, I forgot to read it. Sorry about that, Zippy. Zippy says, leftists are Nazis. I will die on this hill. don't think you gotta. I think you firmly planted your flag, and they're abandoning that one.
Or try to move to maybe Nashville and see if the
Yes.
Daily Wire thing works out. Well, that didn't really pan out, which it's not like there's no bad blood there. It's just it's not where it's not where God wanted me, I don't think.
Yes.
And so then I just kept on going, and I ended up in Montana.
How'd you
And
wind up in Montana?
We ended up shooting terror on the prairie there.
And you liked it so much you stayed?
I just being outside and looking at the sky and being able to breathe. And
It's so funny how common the stories of people who were in, Hollywood, LA, whatever, going out to the country and just realizing, like, oh, this is better. This is better. And like, that's what the people who are not in the cities have been telling you forever. It's like, no, but I got my Louboutin right here and it's got a Jamba Juice.
Not feeling that anxiety of a city or the possible riots coming down the streets. And just, there's an interesting thing I feel like in Montana, people mind their business basically.
Yes.
And keep to themselves. And I feel like in Montana, you have to work in your land. You have to have a certain toughness during the winter. And I think that's really cool.
Oof, yeah, I could not do a Montana winter. Don't they get that, like, they get like feet of snow. Like in Jersey, we used to, like, maybe once per winter we would get like a big snow where it'd be 2 or 3 feet. Now, I mean, I don't know what's going on. We haven't gotten a real good snow in a number of years, but it still gets cold. And I just when it's wet and cold and dreary, I gotta get out of the state. Hey, look what we got. We got Nick in the building. Welcome to the party. Always good to see ya. Welcome. You said on the upside, Nazis are dysfunctionally autistic and retarded, so Darwin collects most of them quickly. Luckily. Wonderful said Tucker sounds so meek for some reason. Used to him being much more exuberant. I think that he's reacting to how sensitive she's feeling. That's what I got from it. It just feels like he realizes that she's still reeling from this. And I don't know that she has really spoken about this at length much at all. Aside from this. So I think this is a good approach. Hey, shout out to Garrett Grant. Look at that. Oh my goodness. Not 1, not 3, not even 5, but 10 gifted memberships. Oh, that's got to get a double treat for Morty. Oh my goodness. Oh, we got to get it on camera. There you go. Oh my goodness. Welcome to the party. What an entrance. Welcome. So, thank you so very, very, very much. And guys, shout out to anybody who was just gifted a membership. If you were gifted a membership, you now have full access to the Discord, including the after party. As soon as we are done here, we are going over there. We don't have to worry about the YouTube censors, anything like that. And you're not stuck behind your keyboard. You're actually on screen with me and everybody else. You can come up if you want to. You don't have to. Either way, it is a good old time. Come and join us. Thank you, Garrett. Again, thank you.
So, Montana is not a place where weak people go to live.
Yeah,
your land, you have to have a certain toughness during the winter. And I think that's really cool. So, Montana is not a place where weak people go to live. And I like to be surrounded by that energy.
By strong people.
Yeah.
Energy.
And so when me and my lawyer were talking about it, my family lawyer, and he's such a wonderful man. He was like, Gina, I think it's important that you get somewhere safe and take care of that first. And so I did. And
shout out again to Garrett. Very, very, very much appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
And relocating your life, as I'm sure you've been through plenty of times in your life, is, it's not like an easy thing. Changing a job, changing of a life perspective, and then having to completely uproot and move your life and figure out where you belong. All of that has been going on in the last 2 years. And a lot of positive things too. I look at, relationships and friendships and future different. I could have ended up in New York and single at some point, and now I really value a partnership and I really value a future with someone. And it's just like my whole, maybe that's just called maturity, but I was a really late in maturity part.
You were
My little
Fair enough.
sister
you were
is a lot.
busy.
My little sister is a lot more mature than me, and she's got 3 kids, and she's like, any day, Gina, any day.
Well, is it that? Is it that? Or is it the fact that when you're in Hollywood and when you're surrounded by liberals, then the idea of having a family, building a family, the importance of that is kind of an afterthought. Then you move out to Montana where you need a family. Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
I'm like, well, I don't know about the kids part, but
Did your spiritual perspective change?
I've always been a Christian, but I never felt so much like a Christian as I do these last few years, and it just keeps growing. And I think that's something that makes people cringe, and
I didn't say anything. I didn't even make a face.
I've seen that happen. But
Why does it make people cringe when you say that?
well, I think, religion and any type of, it's been used so wrongly. It's been used so aggressively and wrongly to persuade people in evil, ways that are fake. And it's really turned people off, because usually when people go to God or go to a place of God, they're searching because they're hurt and they're wounded. And when you are hurt and wounded, and then you get hurt and wounded by the person, the people, or a place that you feel is supposed to protect
Yes.
and be the safe place, I think then people just get really angry at God. And I don't think that it's God that maybe they're angry at. It's at the experience.
I completely agree. And again, this comes back to the same message that I have for you guys all the time. That, all right, fine, great. If you have been living a life that's not ideal, and then you use religion to help your life be better, great. But not everybody can do that. Some of us have already been through that and have already done the intellectual work to understand that that's not going to work for me. So if something happens to me, then I don't have that thing to grab onto. And I would like for there to be a thing. I just want a thing. And right now we're calling it the American identity. I definitely have to get a better name for it, but an ideology, a collection of ideas that again, people can grab onto, something that is real and maybe not physically tangible, but as tangible, quote unquote, as the idea of Christianity, where you can sink your life into it. And for, I would say most people who take it seriously, it helps their life. That's not the problem that I have. The problem is the others. I mean, liberty is definitely included, but it's a lot bigger than liberty. It's a lot bigger than liberty. Liberty is just the freedom to do what you want to do without hurting other people. That's definitely a part of it, but that is not a spiritual thing. That is not a moral guideline. So I completely agree that most of these people who fall away from God and find religion and all that stuff to be cringy, just, again, throw the baby out with the bathwater, because it is fucking cringe. Doesn't mean that there's not huge nuggets of wisdom and stuff in there. That's why we need an alternative.
And I don't think that it's God that maybe they're angry at. It's at the experience,
Yes.
And so,
Hey, shout out to Liberty Plus TV. So give me liberty. You got it, buddy. You got it. Welcome to the party.
it's God that maybe they're angry at. It's at the experience, And
Yes.
so
The people claiming to represent him.
yeah, so I really haven't been to church, an actual church, probably in 20 years.
Oh, how Christian. How so very Christian.
Yeah.
But I, in the last 3 years, have just grown so much closer and understanding. And so it was actually at that point where I said, I was like, God, all these people are getting justice, and I know I was done so wrong. It was so wrong what happened to me. And I know that there's so much more wrong that happened to so many other people. And so I even felt like, don't be a brat about this,
That's one thing that frustrates me is people feeling like because they live a privileged life and then something slightly less ideal happens to them and then they prayed for it. It's like, oh, well, that's proof of God. Like, well, what about the starving kids in Africa? I don't get it.
Doctors and lawyers and police officers and nurses. And, this is like awful things are happening all around to everybody. And so I started looking at my justice as, starting over in Montana and being able to see the big sky and just being so grateful for my surroundings. And then finally, it was really interesting when I finally got that out of my heart and truly gave it over to God and was just like, it's yours. If I stay in the desert of work and I never work again in this business, then okay, then I need to learn a different skill.
And again, fair enough, but that is not a dichotomy. That is not a dichotomy. And for some people, it doesn't matter that it's not a dichotomy because one side of it is good enough. But no God and God is a false dichotomy. We need people to understand that, yes, God is an avenue to spirituality, this, that, and the other, but it's not the only one.
I need to figure out what I'm going to do. And so I had to really let it go. Genuinely let it go. And
which isn't easy.
And a week later, well, yeah, that took years. I tried to pretend like I was there so many times, but to genuinely let that last inch of like, it's going to be okay. And I'm going to give it to you. And a week later, I got an email. A week later, I got an email from X. And they said that they were some lawyers that were taking up cases that people had possibly been fired for speaking their opinion on X. And
ooh. So Zippy says, but liberty grants you the ability to be you and not fuck with another liberty. You cannot like liberty if you take it from another. Liberty and individualism protect everyone's freedoms. Completely agree. Where is the moral part of that?
And they'd like to hear my case.
So they
no clue who is.
Possibly we're taking.
What are you talking about?
We're speaking their opinion on X, and they'd like to hear my case.
So they approached you?
Over email.
Elon Musk's lawyers just found you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like she was hiding.
I don't even
and said, by the way, we'd like to pay for your case.
Yeah. Well, no, it didn't go like that. It was. First of all, I was like, is this a scam?
Yeah, it sounds like a scam.
Right. And I was like, some sort of scam. So I had my lawyers look into them to make sure. My family lawyer, no, I've never paid a dime to, and he has just, he's actually my brother's or my sister's husband's cousin.
Brother's sister's husband's cousin. Is that any real connection? I don't really think that's anything. But hey, do what you can do. Shout out to Guam Tech. Welcome to the party. Good to see you. The great warrior poet. Hell yeah. Welcome, sir.
And here he is just like taking on like my problems just with a smile. And I was like, do you think you can, Will Lemkel, by the way, I love you, Will. He's been such a wonderful person to me. He was just like, these people are legit. These are actually legit lawyers. Get back to them.
Okay, here we go.
And
let's
so
take down Disney.
Because Will believes in my case. He just knew my personal circumstance was very difficult at the time, and didn't have the money to pay for that.
Yeah.
So we're now 17 minutes into this, and the main thing has been about how did you feel when you got canceled, and how did you deal with that? Whereas, as she correctly pointed out, and again, I understand the situations are not the same, but Tucker got fired from Fox, and it seemed like he was like ready. He was ready and just let everything kick off as soon as he was there. He was like, "Hey, this Tucker Carlson, the Tucker Carlson encounter, it's called now. It was Tucker Carlson Network, but I guess they're workshopping names. But I see this big wooden thing in the back, so I guess that's the name they're sticking with. So just very, very interesting
at the time, and didn't have the money to pay for that.
Yeah.
Zibby says the moral part of it is not bothering others and getting on with your life. If you seek someone else's morality, you will impose somebody else's morality. What do you mean someone else's morality? The idea that what you should do. That's what I'm asking you about. People need a thing to tell them what they should do. What is the should do in liberty? There's a lot of should not do. What is the should do in liberty?
I needed to put that money into restarting life.
Yes.
And so he's like, call them back. And so, or email them back. And I emailed them back immediately. And I was like, ready. And Edward Trent, who is at the law firm, just an incredible man. He was like, wow. He was like, we've emailed a lot of people and you got it back to us as pretty fast, And then from there on,
I always hate that. Like, maybe she was already on her phone.
And the last, I guess that was before Christmas, and it was, probably in November, I think. We've just been I'm sending them everything, and I'm telling them my story, and we're having long conversations, and they're listening to everything that happened. And then, I'm sending them emails that transpired between me and Disney and publicists and all the other people. And I'm sending them everything I've got. And they took that to X and Elon and said, we believe in this case very much so.
Zibby, you're acting as if that I'm pushing for Christianity. You know that that's not what I'm saying. You are very, very, very acutely aware of that. I am telling you that people need a should do, whether it's Christianity or the government saying just do whatever you want. People need a should do. Liberty does not contain what you ought to do. That is all I'm saying. I understand that with liberty, you have the ability to determine amongst yourself what you should do. You are not other people. Other people need to be told, this is what you should do. The American identity says to make a family, build your community, give people grace, forgive those who've transgressed if they've shown attrition, so on and so forth. What is the should do in liberty? It doesn't have one. That's okay, because it's not a moral philosophy. But people need a moral philosophy. You can think you're above it, but you have your own moral philosophy. Just the rules that you live by, the things that you think are right and wrong. That is your code of morality. That tells you what you should do and what you should not do. Liberty does not encompass that.
And said, we believe in this case very much so. Very much so. And they presented it to X, and then X is like, they had to get the permission from them. So I'm sure X has their lawyers looking through it, because it's a completely different law firm.
Yes. Retained by X.
Yes. So I'm sure X has their own people that are looking at it as well.
Oh, so hey, everybody, looking at Gina Carano. Shout out to Drag Blacker. Welcome to the party. Said all these millennial and Gen Z Christian revivalists are starting to act exactly like the caricatures Hollywood and pop culture have used to denigrate religious people for decades. Christianity's dead. Christianity is a husk of what it used to be. A lot of people, a lot of you guys will continue to use the tenets of Christianity in a way that it, or at least closer to what it was supposed to be, but it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't have anything. When you have this Nala chick, you have Gina Carano, you have Ayan Hersey Ali, you have Richard Dawkins, all saying there's some form of Christian, and they all believe in the last 2 months, and they all believe a different thing. Yeah. Drag Blogger's spot on here. Spot on. Okay, live your life how? Live your life how, Zippy? You're being purposely obtuse because I just explained this to you. And you know that live your life is not a prescription for how to live your life. How should I live my life? Well, you just live your life.
What? Stupid.
Once Nine said, nature abhors a vacuum. Something will fill it. Exactly. And I mean, you can try to force people into the box of Christianity and you will lose. Or we can open this up a little bit and have a secular moral structure that doesn't conflict with your religious beliefs. Imagine that. Everybody's welcome. Everybody wins. Dragblogger says, I never got the Carano simping. A lot of people were on the bandwagon for a few years back, even if she was in the right. I think it has a lot more to do with old school MMA fans. I mean, if we're looking at what we got on screen, that's one thing. But the people who are simping are remembering this Gina. A little bit different. You know what I mean? It's what we talking about here? What we talking about here? That's who they're simping over. So, I mean, I hear you, but that's who they're simping over. Nick says, liberty is not what you should do. It's what you, me, and everyone else shouldn't infringe on without somebody doing something to lose their right to liberty. Exactly. Liberty is what you should not do. Liberty is what you should not do, not what you should do. Hey, we got Kelly Green in the building. Welcome to the party. Said Zippy, that's not an accurate statement. Just saying. Dracula said, however, the critique about how all these sects of Christianity is the problem is just Protestant bashing and promoting either Catholicism or Orthodoxy. Something is stupid no matter what she looks like. I mean, sure. But here I'm going to disagree with you because I am the atheist who talks about all these sects of Christianity. The fact that it's not one thing means that it's not one thing. It's an amalgamation of different ideologies. Christianity is not one thing. One of these things is not like the other.
So there's multiple eyes on this. And then they had to take it to Elon and, brief him on it. And then,
it wasn't. He was being obtuse. He knows exactly that I'm not, that liberty isn't exactly what Nick said. He knows that. That's being obtuse.
Came back and they said, we're taking it on. Let's do this. We're going to write a complaint and we're going to file.
I mean, that's just an amazing story.
Yeah.
I heard Elon say something or read some statement where he said, well, anyone who's free speech on X.
Where is it? Not acute. Gotcha. Took me a second. All right. My bad. Sometimes I'm stupid.
Even where he said, well, anyone whose free speech on X has been used against them.
Right.
Can have our lawyers look at it. But what do you, I mean?
And I responded to that, which I didn't think that anything would ever come of it, but he tweeted that out.
So as to say, so Elon said, if you were unfairly treated by your employer due to posting or liking something on this platform, we will fund your legal bill, no limit. She's like, I think I qualify.
And I said, you know, in a quote tweet, I said, well, I think I qualify, or something like that, smiley face. And nothing happened for months, and I was like, okay, well, you know, I didn't
Worth a try.
expect anything. So
Yeah, so Jack Butler's saying, I have no issue with the Christian revivalism in the West, and I think it should happen. But as usual, the millennials and Gen Zers have already ruined it with their generational stupidity and lameness. But this is assuming that there can be a 2024 Christian revivalism in the West without millennials and Gen Zers ruining it with their generational stupidity. There's no one without the other. The quote unquote need for a Christian revival is because of the generational stupidity and lameness. And so while there are individuals who may not be the problem, the fact is, because of the fact that millennials and Zoomers are millennials and Zoomers, religion, specifically Christianity, will not work. It just won't work. That generational stupidity and lameness is inherent to all of us. Millennials, Zoomers, it's inherent. We can't shake it. Liberty Plus TV says liberty gives you an idea of what you should do, which is to defend people's liberty, right? And so that's at a bare minimum, at a survival, that yes, but that doesn't tell me when I wake up in the morning, what should I do with my life? What should I do? Liberty doesn't do that.
then I was like, okay, well, you know, I didn't expect anything. So, and then when that happened and I got that email, it was like, it's one of those, there's been a couple of those calls in my life, or a couple of those moments in my life that I've just been like,
again, Zippy, that's to not do. What to not do. You capitalized it. Not. I'm not asking what not to do. I'm asking what to do. Well, I mean, I think a lot of Christians would disagree with you. I think a lot of Christians would disagree with you. That if you go around raping and murdering, well, that's not really preference. That's a deal. That's morality.
oh my gosh, like,
Let's back this up.
you know, I didn't expect anything. So, and then when that happened and I got that email, it was like, it's one of those, there's been a couple of those calls in my life, or a couple of those moments in my life that I've just been like, oh my gosh, like, I get a chance right now. I get a fighting chance to clear my name, to let the world know what happened here, to, you know, the world's come a lot, you know, a long ways in 3 years. A lot of information's come out.
Yes.
So, I mean, you shouldn't get fired for being ahead of the curve. You know?
Based. It violates the NAB. Okay, so you're telling me that it would be legitimate to say, well, instead of Christianity, just have liberty. That doesn't make sense. Those aren't the same things. We're moving on, guys. Liberty is not an ideology. Liberty is not an ideology. It is certainly not a moral philosophy. End of story. I didn't say it's bad. I like liberty. It's just not moral philosophy. That's what it is.
I mean, you shouldn't get fired for being ahead of the curve.
Zippy, this is still not without. Okay, so what should I do that is not bothering? Okay, great. Now I know that I shouldn't bother other people. So I should just sit in a room by myself? Liberty is not a moral philosophy. End of story. Moving on.
I mean, you shouldn't get
No,
fired
the fuck
for
you
being
wouldn't.
ahead of the curve. You know what I mean? I shouldn't have gotten fired for, you know, talking about lockdowns and masks and encouraging that. I was encouraging conversation. You know, I shouldn't have gotten fired for my supposedly controversial tweets. They were not controversial. They were just having trouble with where I was coming from. I think it's bewildering. Like it's mind blowing what happened.
Do you have any idea why? I mean, even very rich people rarely pay for lawyers for strangers on principle. I mean, have you?
Oh, I'm so glad you said this. So you're gonna tell me that you think Dave Smith, his only driving factor is the non-aggression principle? You sure? You sure? You sure? You sure? You sure? You sure? Because I guarantee you 1,000% that is not the case. I guarantee you. Yeah, you know what? That's why we're moving on. It's just a nonsensical conversation.
Do you have any idea why? I mean, even very rich people rarely pay for lawyers for strangers on principle. I mean, do you know why Elon Musk is doing this?
I mean, it's kinda because he wants to be the guy that pays for the canceled lawsuits, but I ain't hating on it, but it is what it is.
I've never even met him. I've never even spoken to him. I think he's retweeted me once. And he's doing this not only for me in this big case, he's doing this for many other people. And I think we're living in a time of such an incredible person that would be fighting for free speech on the biggest level. I mean, if we did not have what Elon Musk is doing right now, so many of us would be in such deep trouble. Nations would be in trouble. And I respect what he's doing, and I don't know why he's doing it. I think that, a lot of billionaires put their money into more selfish things, and he's choosing to put his money into the defense of free speech and the defense of injustice.
And so even if you think that Elon is, not the perfect person and he's not always right about this, that, and the other, that's a really cogent point that so many people, and Tim Pool talks about this often. He's like, there's so many people out there with a lot of money. Like, what are you doing with that money? Why aren't you doing something? Help the world. You can't spend all of that money. Nobody's asking you to go poor. Just do something. Nick says, to myself as an American, I value our freedom enough to fight for it if needed. That includes as an atheist who's in agreement with the Indian Jesus on religion. I'll still fight for all of your right to believe. A true patriot. And
I have to imagine, that it had to do something with May Musk, his mother, because I follow her too, and I think
I did not know the name of Elon's mother. Okay, May Musk.
How heartbreaking it's been.
I wonder what just super random, but May Musk maiden name, because it doesn't really. Okay, well, whatever. Just curious what her maiden name was.
For my family to watch me go through this hardship, and I really wonder about the Musk family and what tough skin they must have had, but what an incredibly classy woman that woman is. And I love following her because I see this came from somewhere, and yeah, I just think what an incredible family that has burdened such a tough moment in time.
All right, we're ending this here. So he says, you wanted the rules of what to do. I gave them to you, and you brushed them off. Now I'm about to convert to Sky Daddy because you're crazy and trying to too hard to make things complex. No, I've asked you, what is it that I should do, and you kept giving me things that I should not do. You have not show me where it says this is what you should do. Everything is you should not do that without doing this, without doing that, not doing this. Those are not prescriptions. If I tell you that I want you to sit in this room and don't eat anything. What prescription have I given you? What have I told you to do besides sit in the room? No, we're going to wait. Oh, nothing. That's what I thought. And it says for a former UFC wrestling chick, she's very soft-spoken and feminine. Yeah, well, I mean, that just goes to show you that the act of being in combat sports, it's a sport. And while it definitely can give you life skills and a perspective on how to view life and how to move and how to operate, it doesn't make you a particular type of person. And so that's definitely a if nothing else, if you have daughters, get them in martial arts, because it's not gonna, it's not gonna turn them into some butch ass lesbian. It's just gonna give them additional skills. You can still be who you are. And as far as I understand, she's never been this like if you remember Ronda Rousey, she was always very like brash and masculine and whatever. Gina was never like that. The other big name in combat in MMA was Cyborg, and Dana White got in trouble for saying that she looked like a man, because she did. And so I mean, definitely you get a lot of different personalities, and it has nothing to do with can you beat my ass or not.
Burdened such a tough moment in time that I think that he will go down in history as one of the greats, as will you, Tucker.
Well, I'm not doing anything like that. I'm just talking on camera. That's a pretty generous thing to be doing for people you don't know. I mean,
I love that. I love how Tucker very quickly just wants to shuffle the attention off of himself. It's his own show. He is a very prominent voice. He is somebody who is, he fucking interviewed Putin. We're in the middle of the war and we'd never heard the man speak in the last fucking, I don't know how long. He's doing the damn thing.
I've spoken to him.
So tell
I
us.
hope I get to thank him one day, and shake his hand, and I don't know, like how you thank someone like this, just thank you, Elon, for fighting this fight for so many of us. It's just, I don't know anybody like this person.
Speechless.
And I don't even know this person.
So Antifa said, to make it simpler, put together a short list of the moral principles to live by for the American identity. People anymore have almost no attention span, so it needs to be short and concise. Family, community, grace, forgiveness, merit, capitalism. Any shorter than that?
Amazing. So what's the suit like? And it goes without saying that we're fervently rooting for you and for justice in this case, but tell us about the suit.
Well, my lawyers, they said, keep the lawyer talk to the lawyer talk, right?
Yeah.
So I don't
Disney.
stick myself in a bad situation. So I kind of leave that up to them. It's all in the complaint. They filed the complaint. It's February 6th.
So I don't necessarily expect her to know too much about the specifics. What I'm really looking for is this about Gina Carano versus Disney, or is this going to be more, maybe not necessarily class action, but in that realm?
And Disney now has a certain amount of time to respond to that complaint.
Yes.
And so, that's...
But basically, the substance, as I understand it, you're fired unfairly in violation of the law and then defamed. Tell us about the defamation. Tell us what they did to you in more specific terms.
Well,
yeah, Nick says confident people are usually less aggressive than people who have no confidence. Not a hard rule, just in general. And usually the confident person is most likely to protect others. Well said, sir. Well said.
There is defamation. I'm not sure. And
if that's a legal claim, I should as well as a non-lawyer keep the. But they trashed you.
They did. What they really did was they put out this awful. So I put up a tweet that has become infamous tweet of saying that, and I don't even know, because I just put it up in like a story section. I didn't post it. I put it in like the, quick, everybody look through like the stories of the tweet, because tweets used to have the fleet section. And it was basically saying that it didn't start like,
if I had just waited, it would have been right here. Perfect lined up. Perfect.
Nazi Germany didn't start just with people just waking up being Nazis and like,
Right.
demonizing, like throwing Jews into the concentration camps.
So if you missed it before, again, it says Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where the Nazi soldiers could have easily rounded up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating somebody for their political views? And again, there was nothing else. This was the entirety of what got her in trouble. This is completely relevant to what was going on at the time. And they were just like, nah.
It didn't start there. It started before that. It started with propaganda. It started with, you had to kind of start urging people to make it okay to demonize your neighbor and to hate people for whatever differences it was. At that time, it was Jewish people. And, that's where it started. And that's what made it so much easier for, you're living in a house and then, then not.
Virgil, if you're going to post gross shit like this, can I at least get a heart on the video? God damn.
He's coming there. Your next door neighbor is getting hauled off that, maybe years before you guys were all having dinner and having this wonderful relationship. And then it gradually happened. It just wasn't something that happened just like that.
Right. And let's not forget that pre-World War I, because obviously World War II came from the Treaty of Versailles and Germany was in shit. But it's not like Germany was some third world country. We're talking about a European country that's existed a lot longer than America has. And so this stuff can happen anywhere. Now, I think it's coming up. Hey, there's Morty boy. Hi, Mort. It can happen anywhere. And this is why I will say things like they cannot get to a vaccine mandate if you won't wear a mask. It requires you to go along with them. It requires your compliance. So as long as you stay strong, we're good. We're good.
And that was what the meme meant to me, was that I was trying to tell people now, like, don't demonize each other. Understand, we're all human beings still.
And I know a bunch of you are purebloods, and you will never forget the degree of othering that happened simply because you didn't take this shot. And I'm not gonna, well, whatever. I was gonna say something that probably could have too easily been misunderstood, so I'm not gonna say it, but you remember.
And basically just bad things have happened in the past, and to learn from the past.
Yes.
And I thought that was something that everyone, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, that everybody could understand and get. I thought that was a tweet for everybody.
Oh, sweetie. Oh, honey. That's what you get when you live in a world where people can have different ideas and still be friends, be polite, we don't live in that world anymore. That is what woke so many people up. Is that they were like, okay, well, yeah, I'm going along, whatever. Oh, the trans this, okay, that's racist, sure, whatever. Vaccines this, that. As soon as there's something like, wait, I don't know about this. It's just, you're a horrible person. And so, in the same way that it happens gradually, there are markers. There are markers that clearly move the chains forward, to use a football analogy. There's as gradual as it can happen. There are these big moments where we see, okay, depending on how we react, depending on how the government reacts, depending on how all this goes, this is a crucial moment. And the COVID lockdowns absolutely were one of those moments.
And the Hollywood press and every major news and media, that they came against me, and they said she compared Republicans to the Jewish Holocaust, and she's denigrating the Jewish community, and like
Wait, so you came out against the Nazis, but they claimed you were pro-Nazis.
they smeared me as an anti-Semite, smeared me, and I was like, wait, I still don't get how did you do that?
Right.
And why did people believe in it? But and then what Disney did was they put out a statement that said, we are no longer working with her. There is a statement.
That horrible woman. We're no longer working with that bitch. And I often hate a view, I believe is wrong, but I don't hate the people with that view unless they deserve it, like Joe Biden. He earned my hate. I said, shit, me too.
We're no longer working with Gina Carano, and we basically think that she's denigrating people off of their cultural and religious beliefs. And they said something about me being abhorrent. And
for your anti-Nazi tweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you obviously know this since you worked in the business, but I mean, people who write about television and movies are directed to the word by the PR departments at the television and movie companies.
Right.
So there's no independent press that writes about the movies or about television.
Right.
Even cable news.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the big cable news websites are all controlled by the PR departments.
Right.
It's true in Hollywood.
And that's really been, so I had my own, had hired my own publicist during, season 2 of The Mandalorian, and they were working with the publicists from the Disney people, and then they were working with the UTA, who dropped me immediately as well.
Of course they do.
And then
your agent, who's there fighting for you.
Yeah, all of them. I mean, and then the entertainment lawyer dropped me.
Of course.
And that the funny thing is, like, the entertainment lawyer, I think, was they would constantly be sending out, hey, we're having this Democrat, at my house, come on over for, raise some funds for the Democrat, party, or whoever the candidate was that they were, And so all of these people just dropped me immediately. And I was like,
people you'd been paying to stand by your side in case there was a big problem.
Yeah.
The second there was a big problem, they fled and denounced you.
Yeah.
So it's not even just your friends, quote unquote friends. It's not even the people who seem to be on your team. It's the people that you're actually paying to work for you are now saying, well, if I work for you, then I mean, everybody's going to know I work for you. I can't do that. So bye.
Yes, immediately.
May they all rot.
and I was just like, okay, that's so much, I mean, I knew that like maybe something could happen where Disney might be like, hey, as professionals, I thought maybe they'd just be like, okay, well, maybe we're going to not work with you, or maybe something like that could happen by speaking out about the things that I spoke out about. But I found the things that I spoke out about were so much more important than the career part, because I felt like, we needed to be talking about, we're headed in a really bad direction.
Oh, yes.
The lockdowns, the mask mandates, the vaccines, I felt like we needed to, I never even said who I was really voting for. It was just, I was getting really pushed into this, like, you're an extremist, you're an alt-right extremist, And so I thought maybe that could be an option, but never in my wildest dreams would I thought that they would have, through Twitter or through a publication, without even calling me.
And that just reminds me when I was talking to Christian. He's like, well, that Twitter is not the real world. Like, okay. I mean, to an extent, but also it is. But also it is.
This is how I found out I was fired online on Twitter.
Dang.
Like, they didn't call me. They didn't say, we're letting you go. We're no longer going to work together. This is why, it was just, she's denigrating people off of cultural and religious beliefs, and she's abhorrent.
To be fair, though, I think that's a lot of big companies, Because I mean, just thinking of the UFC, you often hear when fighters are cut that when fighters are cut, there's no like call from Dana White or any of the big guys like, hey, we appreciate what you did, but we're not going to move forward. It's just you're cut, you're done. You find out in the newspapers, and you never speak to him again. So to be fair, I think that's not necessarily a Gina thing or a Disney thing, but it's still shitty. It's still shitty.
She's denigrating people off of cultural and religious beliefs, and she's abhorrent. And I was like,
for coming out against the Nazis.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So backwards.
Yeah. But again, that when you get attacked in the Hollywood trade press, that's because the company you worked for directed those reporters to attack. Right.
So Any Film is looking for the post again here. I don't feel like it said anything left or right. It just said something about painting people as different than your enemy. Yep. Jews are beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? Nothing political about it. Nothing left or, well, I mean, it is political. Nothing left or nothing partisan about it. And that's why it was such a big deal. That's why Daily Wire was like, yo, we gotta, we're with you on this, because it's not that she expressed some right-wing thing and they were like, oh, yeah, I mean, you get it. We can't deal with that stuff. No, she was just saying, hey, so that could mean hating people on the left for their, yeah, exactly. But, you brought up Nazis, and we know that what you actually mean is that we shouldn't treat the unvaccinated well, so you're gone. One says it's more anti-government rather than one political side. Yep, yeah, and that's why we all saw it. We all saw it, and apparently so did Elon. As much as she is, Hollywood actress, when you're going up against something a behemoth like Disney, I mean, there's levels to this shit. Yeah, anti-government, anti-media, which is basically a branch of the government at this point.
Bingo.
Yup. Press. That's because the company you worked for directed those reporters to attack.
Right. And I'm learning that more and more. So now, when there's like a piece that somebody writes about me, I go and I look up the journalist, and then I go and look up what other articles has this journalist written.
Of course.
And you can almost just trace it back. And a couple I traced right back to Lucasfilm, and I was like, of course, right there, you guys. You call up your people, and it's ugly. It's
the most dishonest thing ever.
Yeah, and
a reporter at the Hollywood Reporter or wherever.
Yeah,
reporter,
and it's all involved, right? It's the agencies, it's the managers, it's the publicists, it's the studios, and it's just this big mafioso that does not give the independent artist unless they're willing to comply and fit in 100% into that ideologies and their narratives, and be basically these manufactured robots. I mean,
you have to think good thing. You don't think good thing, you bad person. Bad person, no good. You be like good. You bad?
I feel like there's the 1% of Hollywood that can do what they want and say and think what they want, and those are the very, very talented people. But at the peak of my career, it was like, I think they thought, let's make an example out of this one.
For sure.
She's an action actress. She hasn't done, drama yet. She hasn't gotten there. We'll make an example out of her. And it had the complete opposite effect, which was just overwhelming support. It was pretty funny. Like, as soon as they were at the peak of their stock market ever. In February 2021, in February 2021, and right when they fired me is when it started plummeting to what it is now. And they're
Let's see. What is the let's go to Disney stock. Let's see over the last year. Okay, so they're picking back up. But if we look at 5 years, this was February. Let's see. Let's get this. So we have this was December 19. We had a big dip right into 2020 that has to do with like movies and stuff. November 20, they got back up. They peaked back in March of 2021, but been on a steady decline. And then, bam, right around last April, just not doing good. Not doing good.
plummeting to what it is now. And you're obviously very smart people, and they're trying to salvage it. But people saw what was going on. In my case, it was very obvious.
Do you have friends who are still there?
Yeah, everybody I worked physically with, I never had a problem with. And me and Pedro, we connected after
Shout out to Pedro Pascal.
Carl Weathers passed away.
Yes.
No shout out for Bill Burr. Come on.
And there was all these lies and all these weird stories that people make up in their heads. And one thing I can say is I adore Pedro. And he said one thing to me. He said, "You and Carl were protectors," and that means so much to me, that he remembers me and our time together as me being a protector. And it's important. Like people don't know what the real story is. Like, why do you think Pedro's calling me a protector? To his fans, I there's a reason, and there's stories that you don't know that happened.
So it's interesting. Before she went on this little thing about stories that you don't know, I was going to say that it's interesting to see how, whether it's the female nature, any film was just talking about how she's very feminine, or the fact that she was from a more liberal space, that she's a lot more in her feelings than other people, specifically Tucker, who have been through very similar things. Everyone said, "Fuck Pascal, he said nothing." Well, that's definitely a fair position. But when you're at the peak of your Hollywood career, unless we're going to say everybody who didn't make a post about Gina Carano, I just feel like it's more an indictment on the industry than it is the person. And I'm right there with you that it would have been the morally just thing to say, "Hey, I don't approve of this." But realistically, what would that have done? Make him be the next one? So I get you, but I feel like that's more of an indictment of the industry rather than him personally.
There's a reason, and there's stories that you don't know that happened. And I was there.
Spill the tea.
And I protect people. There was a person multiple times. That's just my nature, is when, there was a person who was wearing a mask on set, and they were at their end. They were overtime, and they were crying, and they were upset, and they couldn't do it anymore. They just couldn't. They were broken. There was a broken person in that mask, and nobody was saying anything. And I just simply went up to the director at the time, and I said,
"Oh, come on. Hold on. That's a good place to put never mind. I don't even want to say that. Hold on. Come on. Do the thing.
This person's done."
Okay, hold on.
Anything. And I just simply went up to the director at the time, and I said, "This person's done. They're done. They need that. They need the contacts out. They need the thing off their head. They need to breathe. They're broken." And The direct.
Same film says he was a star. He could have pressured them to and kept her on. What's it take for evil to win? I don't agree with you. I don't think that he has that kind of power. I think that sure he might, like, it would have been something, but the fact that the public was behind her getting rid of her, it is way more likely that they just would have gotten rid of both of them. Again, look, we just looked at the post to defend what they think that she is saying. In their eyes, would be worse than what she said. And as much as, you know, it's Disney and Star Wars and the Mandalorian, doesn't the fucking dude wear the mask the whole time? So I'm with you in terms of the sentiment that you know, people should be able to speak their minds, and then it's not good for people to just cower to save their jobs. I'm right there with you. But that's an ideal. If we're talking realistically, do you really think that, and again, he's a star now. 3 years ago, he wasn't who he is now. It's because of that, because he did that show, that he got hired for The Last of Us, and so on and so forth. And so would he have gotten the roles, and would they have hired her back? I just don't think so. And so, yes, I do think that it would have been the morally right thing for him to stand up and say something. But I just understand too much the politics involved for me to say, oh, you're a bad person because you didn't do that. It's just not if I thought that he could have saved her position, then I'd be right there with you. But I don't think so. I don't think so.
Their head, they need to breathe. They're broken. And the director, and I was like, look, I worked longer hours than maybe probably any actor because my face was showing and I did all my own stunts.
Right? Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about, right? And the star of the show has the helmet on the whole time, so they can just stick anybody in there.
So if you go back and you look at like the work records, you're going to find who was on set the most as like the actors, and you're going to find me at the top of that list. And I said, I'll, get my coverage tonight. I know you guys wanted to do it, the next day. You can get my coverage tonight. You give this man a break, and I will, I'll stay later and, push my time, and I'll show up early, and, don't worry about it. But I've done that on numerous sets, and that's, because I do understand that, like, well, I come from a fighter's background, and I want it, and I wanted it so bad that I feel like if I can have the energy to push in, I can do it. And it crushes me when people are broken or hurting or being bullied.
Yes.
And which was my whole purpose of speaking out.
And that is a very common thing when you see people who are stronger, like Nick was talking about before, people who will have this confidence about them. They don't like to see other people in bad positions. They don't like to see other people feeling like they are helpless, because it's often something that they can resonate with, and they don't feel anymore, and now they feel the power to help somebody else. So that is definitely very in line with the fighter's mentality.
In 2020 was just...
Well, the weakest got bullied the most, as always.
A lot of people that, I was usually very introverted. I, get really nervous for interviews, although that's getting better.
Yeah, don't say.
I get nervous for public speaking. I get nervous for performing. But when I'm passionate and when I mean something, that's when I can speak. And that's the only reason why I'm probably able to speak with you right now, is because I have a clear heart about what happened. I want the lawyers to look into it. I want the professionals to see what happened and how ludicrous and absurd it was. And
I want to get that money. Just kidding. So Garrett says, I agree with any film. Pedro made a similar tweet referencing the kids in cages. So he defended Gina publicly. It would have put Disney in a bind to replace him without the backlash. Again, I don't disagree with that. I just don't think that they would. I think they would have gone through with it. I just think that they would have been like she was. It was they were looking for somebody who was talking about this stuff to throw under the bus. They were already looking for that. She puts out this tweet that's vaguely connected to that. And they phrase it as if she was, saying that, getting unvaccinated is bad. And if you say anything about people getting unvaccinated, that you're bad. And I feel like we're not remembering the landscape at the time. And maybe you guys are right. If he had said something, then it would have made a big stink, and then all the conservative people would have came out behind both of them and forced Disney to keep her on. I just don't think so. Agree to disagree. I'm going to post it ironically with Pedro's tweet. The cages for those kids were built by the Obamas. Yet that goes right over the heads of the woke left. Yeah, well, I mean, because that's an accepted message. We also don't know. If Pedro is one of them. It might not be that he didn't say anything. It might be that he's like, yeah, get rid of that bitch. So, I mean, until I know that he is somebody who did support her, then I can't expect him to support somebody he doesn't support. I can understand the morality there, but that's not what we're talking about. People said they're all cowards. Stop apologizing to the mob. Tell them to kick rocks. I completely agree with that. But like I said, I don't think. I think, especially if the two of them didn't have any type of closeness or a relationship. Like, yes, there's a principled stand to say, hey, that person over there shouldn't be fired, and I have power here because I'm the star. But again, we know how Hollywood is, and so maybe it would have kept Gina on the show, and then Pedro Pascal never gets another role. And if you're telling me that is what Pedro should have done for him and his family, I just have a hard time saying that's a reasonable position if so many people who are just normal people who aren't making that kind of money were doing the same thing. So again, unless we are going to put Pedro in the same category as every other single person in the world who didn't come to Gina's defense, then I just think they're all equally as guilty. And like, yes, they were wrong, but there's a lot. I mean, you know what I mean? There's just not a lot there. I agree. You should stand up for injustice. But like, if let's say at your job or somebody that you work with, and they come in wearing a MAGA hat, and they get fired. Yes, it is the right thing for you to stand up for that person. But are you really willing to risk your own family's ability to, your ability to feed your family, so on and so forth, for that person? At the end of the day, I'm not saying that Pedro needed, that he went out there and was like, yeah, fuck Gina, and that's a good thing. I would certainly be against that. I just feel like it's very easy to be like, oh, Pedro should do this, when it's not that simple. Again, I agree with the sentiment. I just don't think it's that simple.
The professionals to see what happened and how ludicrous and absurd it was. And I want things to change so that it doesn't happen to other people.
What's your next chapter?
The lawsuit.
Well, my next chapter is going to be, I'm going to make a movie. I'm going to produce and possibly direct it. I am going to do it. I'm going to get it financed. I don't know how yet. But I'm going to make some art, and it's going to be truly inclusive. And I think that's going to be a gift That's where my heart has been. I thought I was going to get that a couple years ago with the Daily Wire. I thought that was the path that was going to happen. But I think God's teaching me a lesson right now of how to do this, how to learn how to put this together, and how to attract the people that you want to work with. And I lost my team when I got canceled, so I didn't have anybody. And so the rebuilding of a life and everything has been my focus in the last 2 years. Well, I've rebuilt that now. And, there's still things that I need to, do. I need to rebuild my body, a lot of stress and not working and, depression and all of that. I need to focus on my health. That's at the top of my list. And I've been saying that, but also to get creative. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think that's what I want to do is I want to direct and produce a movie and start being more in control of getting my stories out there that I like.
I would love to see like a biopic on her early years as an MMA fighter. Like that would be a good movie. Like nobody knew who Gina Carano was until Ronda Rousey came around. I think that would be a really cool movie.
I think being in control is a good thing at this point.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you'll come back when you do that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tucker.
It's just a great story.
There we go. There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So a little bit shorter on that one, but I did think it was, an interesting topic because it was such a specific, or rather such an egregious version of the cancel culture that we see all the time, where it's like most of the time, okay, somebody's canceled for something that shouldn't be that bad, but does fall into the category of the stuff they don't like. But as we saw with Gina's post, it was nothing even close to what could be considered what they presented it to be. And I mean, again, I think there's definitely, obviously we didn't, it wasn't some crazy debate where two people are yelling at each other. It certainly wasn't a debate where I'm yelling at anybody. And but I think there's a lot of value in hearing the stories of people who have gone through these things where they're the center of a media circus, and then we kind of forget about them. We forget about them, and because I remember I saw the movie Terror on the Prairie when it came out, and then I don't remember the last time I thought about Gina Carano. But she's been dealing with this the whole time, as she said, while she was doing the movie, she was still reeling from all this, understandably. And so, as somebody who probably will get canceled for this, that, something or another within the coming years, at least personally, it's interesting to see how different people deal with it, and realizing that wallowing, not that she specifically was wallowing, she was doing them, but if I would probably be that kind of person to sit and wallow and feel sorry for myself, that's the worst possible thing you can do. And that, especially if you have supporters like you guys, then if they take down my YouTube, you know what, that's what we're gonna do next week. I'm going to do a one stream. I'm going to do only, even better. We'll do the first half hour here, and then we're going to cut this, and we're going to go to Rumble, and then we'll do another one where we go to Kick. Make sure we're all on the same page. So just in case anything happens, you'll always be able to get in contact with me. But of course, the best way to do that is to join the Discord server, guys. Join the Discord server. It is free. It is absolutely free to join. And it is the best place to get in contact with me. We are there 24/7, even in the free chat channels. Oh, no, that one. Give me another one. Where is it? Can you drop the link to the Discord, please? Yeah, it is absolutely free to join. 24/7. We're in there, hanging out, having conversations. What's going on over there? Zippy is talking to Darian and Unwanted Foe and Chiku Senshi. They're having a whole conversation over there. And as soon as we are done here, if you are a member of the stream, including the 10 of you that got gifted memberships from Garrett, head on over because we're the conversation's not over, guys. The party is not done. We are headed right over there. Actually, I am joining the party right now. I am in the after party. So make sure you head over there. Thank you so very, very much for hanging out, guys. Let's give a big shout out to Zippy DSM Lee with the Rumble rant. Thank you so very, very, very much. And of course, our sponsor of the stream, Garrett Grant, with not one, not two, not even 5, but 10 gifted memberships. Brother, thank you, thank you, thank you so, so very, very much. You know, I appreciate all of you guys. Every single second you spend here. I know you could be doing anything else, but I appreciate that you are here because we are building something. I am building something, and it's going to be real and it's going to be big. I don't know how long it's going to take, but get in early because you are not going to want to miss it. Thank you so, so very much. Once again, guys, I am your host, Ledge, a.k.a. the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, I am out of here. Peace.